there's got to be some checks in here to see if this succeeds, because this is not going to, like, in reality, I say that talking about a fantasy role-playing game, but generally common sense would say that every single time I am not going to successfully have my hawk familiar drop a bag of holding into the other bag of holding, and it just works every time.
This goes back to episode 1.
Oh boy.
With the peasant railgun.
Oh. We are going to talk about bags of holding, because...
Everybody loves a good bag of holding.
Everybody loves a big bag of holding. So, when we were tooling around Reddit recently, I found something kind of interesting. A question, a query of sorts, which was how to stop combat from revolving around a tactical nuke. Needing advice. Okay, we'll see what we can do to accommodate. One of my players is an artificer with the Find Familiar spell. He keeps making 2 bags of holding and then making his hawk familiar drop one into the other. Of course, that only works once a long rest, but I can't do double fights all the time. That would just annoy the other players. We'll get back to that in a second. We've tried sneaking up on them, worked 2 turns until a shove action was followed by the nuke. I've tried a pack of creatures, wiped out half of them, combat was easy after that. I'm out of ideas. They're level 3, by the way, so a lot of magic is a no-go to avoid a party wipe, if possible. There was a little bit, to give a little bit more context, because I'm sure you can give me some context, but I did find a thing that might help explain what's going on here for people who are like, what do you mean a bag of holding goes into another bag?
So if you're looking at the rules for bag of holding, if you put a bag of holding into another bag of holding, it basically explodes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's kind of what they're saying, is placing a bag of holding inside an extra dimensional space.
And a bag of holding is an extra dimensional space. Yeah,
instantly destroys both items and opens a gate to the astral plane.
Yeah.
And so it's and then what? The gate originates where the one item was placed inside the other. Any creature within 10 feet of the gate is sucked through it to a random location in the astral plane. The gate then closes. It is one way only and can't be reopened. From the Dungeon Master's Guide.
Sure. So first thing I have to say is, if they're having issue figuring out what to throw at the players, I suggest creatures from the astral plane. Yeah.
That's true. You open up the astral plane, there is the possibility that you might have creatures from the astral plane that you then have to fight. If it's one way...
Or later on what you have is creatures from the astral plane come to find you because you've been sending all manner of other creatures that do not belong there.
Oh.
And they're really upset about this.
Yeah, that's fair.
Stop shitting on my lawn. We're here to give you a bill.
Fair enough, yeah. This is the fuck around and find out of Bag of Holding astral planology. Here's the thing that I'm trying to figure out, though. What is stopping the players from getting sucked into the astral plane?
Being far enough away.
Okay. Well,
it's like a 10-foot radius or something like that.
Well, then what you want to do is make sure that the creatures that you send after them are really fast and always in melee combat. Right? Because if they're close enough to the players, then they can't really pull that trick off without also risking getting sucked into the astral plane.
Yeah, so having players do something like this is an interesting conundrum, because ideally what you should do is talk to in this case, talk to the problem player about what they're doing. Because if it's kind of upsetting the balance of the entire party and kind of making everything you throw at them just a piece of cake, it's like, alright, listen, there's one of 2 things we can do. I can throw even harder things at you. I can there's a couple. You can throw harder things at them. You can work around it and make it null and void, taking away the player's agency, or you can find a workaround with the player to make it so that, okay, I understand this is a thing you like to do, but it's kind of memey, and like, it's taking away anything else we can do. So either you need to stop doing this, use it less often, or we need to work something out together, like to make this so you can't do it as often. It's kind of like with your character becoming a werewolf.
Yeah.
Or
rat.
my player became a werewolf, and that's super were-rat. Or in my case, were-tiger. Like, lycanthropy can be super OP, but if you and the player are in agreement where they're not going to just whip it out every single time they're in combat, if they have control over it, then it's not OP. It is like, alright, well now I can give you tough boss battles that you can go up against with your, lycanthropy form to make that a more intense fight.
Right.
But, like, if you're gonna whip it out every single fight and make it so that, I just can't take damage, it's like, alright, you're fighting kobolds. I go into hybrid form. It's like, alright, cool, they can't do anything to hurt you, go fucking murder them.
Right. I kept thinking to myself that were that ever to come into play, I think Max's whole thing is that he never really ended up going into like a hybrid form unless he had absolutely lost control altogether, and then automatically goes into hybrid form, and then it's just like it's a free-for-all at that point because there's nothing that he can do, but that he doesn't voluntarily do it because he wouldn't want to. But the one other thing I'm trying to figure out is, so they got an artificer in the party and they can replicate magic items, but I'm trying to figure out, like, I don't really remember, but I don't know if technically an artificer can create two of the same magic item, or if you'd have to have like two artificers. Because one of the posts that I'm looking at was mentioning that with the artificer's replicate magic item feature being able to create bag of holding, in theory two artificers could each multi-class each create a bag of holding. One would use a third level spell slot to cast catapult to throw an open bag of holding in front of a creature. Then the other artificer would do the same except target the open bag of opening, which would create a portal into the astral plane. But you'd need two artificers.
To succeed, a pretty decent aiming for that.
That's a dex saving throw, isn't it? Like,
no, I mean to make this small item hit that other small item in the opening. To be like, all right, cool. That's like a DC 18.
Yeah.
And if you miss, suddenly the enemies have your two bags of holding.
Right. I mean, catapult. If I remember that spell, I think that's like a ranged spell attack. Like you make some little rocks and you can catapult the rock forward. Or no, wait, catapult, I think you can move an object and you can choose to catapult it like telekinetically across the landscape.
Sure, I would just mage hand that shit.
Yeah, I think you could do a mage hand pretty easily too.
Yeah.
That would
the point is, you've got a player who keeps making tactical nukes by dropping a bag of holding from his familiar into another bag of holding. One way you can circumvent this is have, somebody in town has noticed you doing this.
Yeah.
And they're replicating it, and it's not going well because they're using it to kill, like, guards or to thieve or something else like that. Suddenly you doing this makes you look really sussy.
Yeah, you just have like an ancient order of artificers.
Ancient order of the bag.
Ancient order of artificers. AAA. No, AOA. 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 The ancient order of artificers that all they do is they make the bags of holding. And then they just keep chucking the bags of holding into each other, and they're basically a terrorist organization at that point. That's right. I can't wait for them. A secret society of artificers. That can't be bad at all. This is the other thing that I'm wondering, though. Okay, so the hawk drops the bag of holding into the other bag of holding. Okay, the hawk does have some stats. Shouldn't the hawk still succeed on like a dexterity roll or something, like an aiming roll? Shouldn't?
In theory, yeah, it's a small target.
Yeah, shouldn't you be able to say, okay, you have to roll over a 15 or something if you're like this high up trying to get the damn bag into the other bag?
Yeah.
Like, and if it misses, now there's just 2 bags of holding just sitting out there in the middle of nowhere that you gotta go collect.
That is not something I would let a player just say, yeah, my hawk drops his bag into another bag. It's like, alright, well, the first bag is stationary. The second one is you dropping it from a height of like 100 feet. It's like, roll for that.
Yeah, and hey, you know what? If you succeed, terrific. You get to do your thing. That's nice. But there's got to be some checks in here to see if this succeeds. Because this is not going to, like, in reality, I say that talking about a fantasy role-playing game, but generally, common sense would say that every single time I am not going to successfully have my hawk familiar drop a bag of holding into the other bag of holding, and it just works every time.
This goes back to episode 1.
Oh boy.
With the peasant railgun.
Oh, that was episode 2, but yes.
Episode 2, whatever, electric boogaloo. It goes back to, like, our first couple episodes where we talked about the peasant railgun concept.
Yeah.
Where, like, if you have a player who does something like this, it can be like, once is good, twice is too much. You know, if you want to have a player who pulls this out, who sets this up masterfully and does it, and you're just like, you know what, I'm gonna let you get away with this one time. It's ridiculous. It shouldn't actually happen, and there's no way you're gonna do this again. If they started doing that every single time you got into a combat encounter, line up the peasants. You know, it would be like, all right, listen.
Yeah. Not happening.
You need to stop.
Yeah.
Or all these peasants are gonna, like, beat the shit out of you.
Right.
Now you're just trying to get, like, free slave labor from them.
That's right. Or, this is what I would do. You keep coming across abandoned towns.
Yeah.
You don't ever you are no longer interacting with any NPCs. But what if I want gear? Too damn bad.
Or even better is either you need to pay every single peasant that you got.
Yep.
And they demands compensation.
10 gold.
Or you need
each.
to go through and do a charisma check to individually convince each one to help you. Something like that. It's like, all right, if you're gonna insist on doing this and don't want to work with me, it's like, I'm gonna make it so that you doing this is an inconvenience to you.
Yeah, you have to do an inspirational speech. You have to do the Independence Day speech from that movie.
Like, if you wanted to do this in our game, for instance, if you're like, all right, cool, and I'd be like, all right, I can see what you're doing, but I'll let you go for it. You know,
we'll entertain this
good at least once. I mean, your bag of ball bearings and the thunder wave trick, you know,
that worked.
It'll work a couple times.
Sure.
You know, I'll let you get away with that once in a while, but will it work every time? Probably not.
Right.
But yeah, if you want to do this art game, I'd be like, all right, you've got like once I'll let you do this, maybe twice, but like if you start doing it every time,
right,
it's like it's gonna. We're gonna have a chat.
Yeah. To that end, though, I will note that the ball bearings with the thunder wave functionally really didn't do anything in the combat. The thunder wave had already taken out the orcs.
Yeah.
We just realized later, oh shit, I just put 1,000 ball bearings down on the ground, and thunder wave technically pushes objects away with a certain level of force. I guess that blew out all the windows, didn't it?
Yeah.
My makeshift shotgun.
You made a shotgun.
I made an. Yeah.
In theory, you would figure out exactly like what force would that shoot those out with.
Right. And I don't actually think, like, by rules as written, I don't think it actually does that much, because I think it's supposed to push like 10 feet away or something, individual objects.
Each one of the ball bearings would do like a point of damage bludgeoning, but you've also got 1,000
of them. It's 1,000 of them.
So it's like, do they all count as 1 point?
Yeah. Exactly. What happens if I take one of those ball bearings and it happens to hit somebody, and then I use heat metal on the ball bearing?
You just heat metal bag of ball bearings and
then just chuck it. You just chuck it.
There's molten ball bearings.
Molten ball bearings.
Someone.
Yep. Just send them on out. Whee!
Look at those nice crispy holes going through that dragon. Well,
Yes. This is what you... I think I can set this up. Okay, so I cast heat metal on the bag of ball bearings. Then, you use Thunder Wave on the bag of ball bearings. Ball bearings go everywhere. Hits a whole bunch of creatures. Then, you can use your bonus action the next round. You use your Thunder Wave. Then you use your bonus action to instigate the effect of the heat metal again. And then everything that's touching one of those ball bearings does like 3d8 fire damage, no save.
So in that case, what I would dictate as DM is the moment you cast heat metal on the ball bearings, they just fuse together.
Perfect. Then I have one giant ass ball bearing.
One giant ball bearing.
Great ball of fire.
Yeah.
Perfect. But yeah. So hey, there's something fun that you could try instead. Hey, you know what? If you have the bag of holding, see if you could just send a bag of ball bearings through it and see what happens. I mean, it was a bag of ball bearings the whole time. Somebody did a transmutation spell on it or something.
There you go.
Yeah, it's fun.
The old switcheroo.
Yeah.
You just get a big bad guy. A bad guy who just starts doing that, nuking towns with bags of holding.
Yeah, this is what you have brought upon this world.
Yeah, see what you've done?
Yeah, you should feel bad. You should.
You should feel bag.
Yes. I'm of the mindset, at least for me, if I were running a game, to say that I'll let you try anything, but it's not just a walk. You're gonna have to have, like, the idea, like you were saying, about, like, charisma saving throws, or I have to pay the peasants in order to do the railgun, or the idea that we have to make saving throws, or we have to do checks to figure out if you succeed at having this thing happen, because it's very impractical or improbable that this would just work. Just putting those in place. And hey, if everything aligns, and the players are still able to pull it off, terrific, but they've had to earn it. They've had to work for it before they can just do it. Yeah.
This goes to the example of that time I played WFRP, Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, and I was a gunslinger and knew gunsmithing, and one of the other players, I think was a gold mage, so they knew how to, like, their magic revolved around, like, metalworking and that stuff, so they ended up, with all the money we had, ended up making a gold tank.
Yeah.
And we between the two of us, we made a railgun.
Mm-hmm.
Because I knew gunsmithing and they knew, goldsmithing and gold magic. So casting lightning through this, gun made of gold as an electromagnet just made it so it was a freaking railgun.
Nice.
And the GM's like, we rolled for it, and he's like, yeah, you can do it.
Yep.
We were also, I think, playing an adaptation of Tomb of Horrors for that.
Oh, okay.
It was going to be silly anyways. But he's like, yeah, so you've got this giant golden tank, and it's got a railgun and a cannon on it.
Yeah.
Good times.
Tomb of Horrors always sounded like an interesting time.
Sure. Also playing with nerdy engineering students.
Perfect.
We'll do that to your games.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I do like the idea, though, that the engineering behind it is, technically you could do pretty much anything, but, we're gonna have to figure this out a little bit before we just go ahead and do it. Like, there's gotta be some work, some planning going in. Let me get a blueprint out before we do this. So, there you go. So, I guess, for that particular thing, I guess we would say that, there are some ways around it without totally compromising it. Yeah.
But I feel like the best answer is to talk to your player.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or have the other players, if they find this to be an issue as well, because suddenly they're not really doing anything. They're just watching this guy drop nukes. Like, you're taking the agency away from them as well. So it's not just about you, it's about the game.
Yeah.
And if your player persists, then maybe they're not the right player for your party.
Yeah. Yeah, someone did write back that I just wouldn't do it actually for the same reasons no one plays Coffee Lock. Yeah, at some point we'll talk about the Coffee Lock, but not.
I don't know that one, but it sounds like fun.
Oh yeah, well I'll look it up. There's a video I can show you before we do it.
Good. Coffee Lock sounds fun.
Yeah, it's delicious and also game breaking. But it's
great. My two favorite things.
So anyway, but that's for another time. Anyway, what do you all think? I'll be interested to hear your comments either over in our Discord channel, or you can also catch us on socials.